everyone's garage.
In this episode, we took an oil filter generator adapter, that's a mouthful, and put it in the 63 Corvair because the one that was in the 63 was broken.
This piece, you need this assembly right here, okay? Kind of scrape the big chunks off, and then we'll get a little bit of diesel and we'll put it in that steel bucket, and then I'll give you a chip brush and you can go through and clean this thing up.
As you will see, we also spent some time preparing for the wiring that will need to be done in the car.
Fire. This, I think, you gotta have this, and then have this. Grounding this puppy, grounded this puppy. So this here is the reason why I haven't wanted to put a live battery on this. I haven't wanted to hook this up to a battery and try and start this thing ourselves because of this. This looks like it was yellow. We got a black and we got a fairly hefty gauge purple. I'm going to say probably 12 gauge purple, probably 10 gauge black. I don't know about this. This is actually what this was. Probably 16 gauge yellow got torched in the fire. So we've got to do a little bit of sleuthing and figure out what those were, and start referencing that wiring diagram and start rebuilding this. It's tedious. It's very tedious. But it isn't ridiculously difficult. It's just a matter of tracing one circuit at a time. Some of this we've already got half figured out. Can't tell if that's supposed to be blue or gray. Our line is reverse lights. Looks like gray and black. Purple. Purple. Okay. One of those is going to be tail light, and one of those is going to be signal and stop. Unfortunately, this is not coming with that side. So, all right, yeah, we're going to have to get that diagram out and start looking at this. Might be our alternator. Okay. Alternator looks entirely different. Okay, that's supposed to be to that. House wiring, more of it. Boy, howdy. We were talking about electric spaghetti on the Malibu. Here's your electric spaghetti. Have you given any history on this thing yet?
No.
No? No. People know we bought it from that guy down in Illinois. Backstory they gave us on this thing was this thing came out of a farm field. They were going to cut it up, put it on an S10 chassis. Just don't have time for it, which is how we got it. They did make it fire and run. We heard it fire and run. Tried to repair some of the wiring in here, but didn't get very deep into it before they decided to abandon the project for other things. Now we're going through it and trying to figure out how all this is supposed to be, and a lot of this got damaged in a fire at some point in time the car had when they were trying to get it run. I don't know if it was the previous owners or the owners before that had that issue, but we're still stuck trying to clean it up. So, I think we discussed this earlier, or I asked you earlier. What are you wanting to do with this thing for now? Just roadkill it?
Just make it run and drive.
Okay. So we're just going to kind of do a little bit of hack and slash, make it run, make it drive, see how you like this thing, and go from there. Okay. Alright. Let's have a little fun with it. Said this thing was belly down in the field.
Belly down?
Yeah, she was laying in the dirt. That's what they said. She was right down onto her pans. And this screams the truth of it. And that's under these pans being a little worse than they said they were. Pretty much those two have been as described. I don't think I'll be making another 13-hour trip for one of these, but you know, this is an old car. It should be fairly simple. Still within my realm of understanding. But if you run into a situation where that's a little bit too much and I'm not home yet, you get under here and start, you know, poke this crap out, get it out from underneath the car.
You mean poke all the loose?
Knock the dirt loose, knock the rust loose, whatever we can, you know, just start cleaning this crap up as much as you can. You know, the more of this that's gone, the better picture we actually have of this, you know, the extents of the damage.
Later on, we realized we had the wrong wiring diagram, and I had a hard time finding the correct one, so off to the dirt scraping I went. What is it indicative of?
Complete lack of service. They ran this thing a long time on the oil changes. I'm betting once we get that engine unstuck, if we get it unstuck, we're going to find that there's a lot of damage on the inside of that thing. You know what? When we're done with this, we can actually use this stuff and pour this right down the block. So we'll do a bit of drain oil, maybe a little more gas. Start flooding those cylinders, pour it down the intake, and see what we come up with. Maybe we'll get it to free up. Yeah. Spend a little time on that. Stuff will start coming loose. Okay?
Okay. I accidentally broke the crank thing for this camera stand that this camera's on right now. Oops.
Those are just barely long enough. I think we might have something wrong here. Okay, washers?
I think there's some from the 65 that I put on the bench. Would you like me to grab?
Yes, I would like to see all of the bolts from that car actually. Okay, this makes way more sense. This makes me much happier. And 65 will get the leftovers. I'm kind of trying to keep that thing closed up just to avoid any more damage than it already has. Tracking? I said that unit will get the leftovers, the 65, and that way we'll avoid any additional damage to what's going on in that motor. Tracking? You think? for me? I really don't know what it's called. I guess I would call it the alternator mount, but it's also the fuel pump mount. It's the oil filter mount. It's kind of a pretty integral part of the whole system here. That's not encouraging. Bolt broken off in one of the cylinders here. Why am I doing this?
I don't know. Why are you?
You're supposed to be doing this.
You need this one? Oh.
No, that can go over there. That's the extra stuff for the 65 for now. Wish I knew what this thing was supposed to be torqued to. I'm just kind of
Guesstimating?
using no better than Ugga right now. This is why you don't trust Ugga. What feels tight enough?
Is there a problem with it being too light, or like having too light pressure?
If it's too light, it'll rattle loose or start leaking. If it's too tight, you risk damaging part stripping bolts. So we're going to go with just pretty much wrist tight for now. Hopefully that's enough. Okay, where's that other alternator? Probably wouldn't hurt to give this thing a little bit of a clean. Don't saturate it, don't soak it, don't dip it, but wipe it down before we put it on.
With something like that?
No. A little bit of that.
A little bit what? Sorry.
A little bit of that. Wipe it down with the rag or the brush or something along those lines. Just clean that stuff up. Supposed to land. Maybe we should have bolted this on before we put it on the car. So we're going to have to get in there, get an easy out or something. Unfortunately, this isn't an aluminum anything, or we could just weld a nut to that, literally. Just get in there with the magnet.
Did something break off? Oh.
That bolt right there.
Which
is your support. Alternator.
How do you put that on then? Are you just gonna let it ride?
No.
Free?
No,
Okay.
we're gonna have to mess with that.
You gotta use that.
That is real.
What is that?
That's your alternator. Yeah, that's what makes the juice. I should say the electricity. Powers the battery. Stores energy so you can trip the motor or the starter motor. Why am I doing this?
I don't know.
I keep doing this for you instead of just kind of showing you. You're going to have to start butting me out of the way here, kiddo. My car. Dad, my car. I'll fix it.
Literally, like, shoving you.
Shoulder me out the way. I don't care. Okay, there's a little bolt under there. There's two of them. You saw me put them in there, right? One is threaded in partially. The other one is, I don't know. Clean up after you. Holy moly, just making a mess of his table.
How tight am I supposed to get these?
It's not. Don't kill them, don't break them off, but get them tight. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Use your head.
I like the camera stand.
Yes. Well, that ain't good. Gotta get that out of there.
What?
Got a leaf down the throat of that car. We should probably ought to get some tape or something, cover these carbs up.
What's a carb?
Yeah.
So it's bad if things get in there?
Yep.
Why didn't you think of that sooner, Dad? Was it just not a big deal? I kind of felt bad for asking that, but it sounded kind of mean.
It was mean, but it was right. So we're halfway there, 2/3 of the way. You see this?
The
Actually, that was just me. Okay. Either way or, this is probably why this mount was broken in the first place, is they fired this thing up without that in place. Nice having parts coming around it.
Yeah. Surgical removal of contaminant has been successful. Yes. Now for a proper disposal of the contaminant. Now to ensure the safety of your patients, I shall cover up the wounds with paper garments. A few days later, I went back to take more of the interior out of the car that I didn't do in the last episode.
Three days later.
Well, you're doing it wrong. These things have a spring clip in them. We got a light. A fairly intense light. If you look right down in that wedge, you can see that spring in there. We're chasing that. There it is. Just like so. Now it's ready to be reinstalled.
It's a huge spider.
Say what?
Look at the huge spider. Right there.
Ooh, that is a big woohoo! Pack attack. Close. Did you hear him hit? He actually thunked when he hit it.
I think that might have just been...
Oh. I was like, wow.
Now that we had the correct diagram, it was now time to work with the rainbow spaghetti. Originally, everything was going smoothly until Dad found a huge problem with the frame that we hadn't noticed before.
Okay, now I'm finding rot in the structure. This whole project just got really deep really fast. We got to start thinking about options. I knew the pans were gone. Couldn't see that. We should have brought a jack with us and jacked the car up. It sure looked solid before we started beating on that. That's why I was so shocked by this thing. I was like, wow, the pans are gone, but the frame is not bad. Oops.
Cover up the wounds with paper garments. Paper. It's paper. In this episode, we took an old... Alright, let's try that again. Because the one that... Let's try that again. We also spent... I went back to take more of the interior